So this is what the user sees when they go in to create a purchase order, this is the purchase order form. This is the simplest form that we have to create a proper purchase order. There's a certain amount of information we need to create a purchase order, and this is it. However, for most of our customers, they require customization of this form a little bit, and mainly that's to add extra items that have relevance for them, and usually that's down to the type of industry that they work in. So for you, it might be if you're a construction, for instance, it might be a job number that you need. If you're in events management, it might be a hire date that you need or a date of return. If you're just a regular office, then it might be a payment method you require. So you want to see what payment method people use to create a purchase order, or an expected delivery date, something like that. So I'm going to go in and create a couple of those custom fields here on this account just to show you. Now the good thing about those custom fields is that they're going to show up in your reports going forward. Those fields will show up as a separate column, and that means you'll be able to drill down based on those particular fields. So it means I'm going to create a payment method custom field. I'm going to make it as a drop down. I'm going to say EFT, electronic file transfer, or cash, or check, or credit card, like that. And I'm not going to display it on the actual purchase order because it's internal data. We don't need to display it there. And I'm also going to create one on, that was on the purchase order level. Like a supplier, there's only one of those payment methods per purchase order. And then I'm going to create delivery date. I'm going to make it a date range, and I'm going to put it on the line item level so that every line item can have a delivery date. So when we go back in to create a purchase order there's our payment method. We can select our EFT or cash, and there's our delivery date, and it shows up a date picker for us, and we can choose what date we want. And for every line item, we can choose a delivery date. Now, if you've watched the budgets video, then you'll know what budgets are. For every line item, we're going to select a budget, and those budgets can be, as we said before, can be locked down so that only those people that need to see the correct budgets will see them. So they'll choose from a list that might not be the full list of budgets. It might be just a few. In this case, there's just one there. I'm going to choose that one, and I'm going to choose my supplier. So those suppliers can be installed or imported from an Excel sheet. You can import all of your suppliers. You can have those suppliers fixed. So if you want your staff to use only specific suppliers, you can fix those suppliers so that they can't add any more. Or you can allow them to create their own supplier. When they click on new supplier, they fill out the supplier details here, and then that supplier would be available to everybody else. This case, I'm going to choose Office Depot here. I can fill out then a description. I can fill out the unit price, quantity, tax. As I've already bought something on a demo purchase order for Office Depot, as I start typing, say, copy paper, there's already a product called copy paper against Office Depot, so it comes up automatically for me. And then when I click on it, it's going to put in the unit price that I've used already. And then I can set my delivery date and go down further. I can fill out notes, and I can drag drop any files in here as well. Those files might be quotations, they might be specification documents, something to back up the spend request, basically. It's going to show management what they're buying and why they're buying it. They're the things that are used most often. Sometimes people will have already bought something, and if they've done that, then they can apply the receipt or the invoice against that as well. And then they're going to come to the approval section. Now, this is currently set up in what we call a manual approval route, and that's where the user chooses who the approver should be. And in a small team of people, this works really, really well. Because in a small team, everybody knows where everybody else is and what the function of everybody else is, and so they'll naturally choose the right person for the job. In a larger team of people, and where your team is kind of spread across different parts of the country or different states and so on, or you have different offices, then the best way to set up your approval routing is to set up approvers on particular budgets. So each and every budget can be given a different approver or a different chain of approvers, and based on the approval limit, that's going to decide who gets asked first in that chain. So let's say that there's myself, and then there's Richard Watkins here. Richard Watkins has $1 million limit. Let's say I have a $5,000 limit, and we're named on this sample budget. When someone comes along, creates a purchase order, let's say the purchase order value is under $5,000. Let's say it's $3,000. So when that happens, it's going to come to me first, and when I approve it, it's going to be approved. It will be an approved purchase order. If it was over $5,000, then it would still come to me because I'm named on the budget, so I need to know what's going on. But when I approve it, then it has to go on to Richard Watkins there for final approval because it's over my $5,000 limit. So depending on how you set up the approval limits means that you can set up different chains of people against the budgets, and you can do that on a per budget basis. All of the budgets can also be imported from an Excel sheet, and so setting this up is actually very, very easy, and maintaining it is easy too, because you can export from a sheet, and you can export your sheet, and then you can make changes and import it all back again. So it's really, really dead simple to maintain. If all of the approvers are set up on all of the budgets, then this approval section disappears because the system already knows exactly who to send the approval to, the approval request to, and that's it. So once everything's been filled out, then the user can save it as a draft, then send it later, or they can click send and send it off for approval.